do manual testing on this link, you can see the username. Correct username is Tom Smith. The password is super secret password. So testing this manual is quite um, tedious. For instance, if we want to test a wrong username, I can just type a wrong username there, type a wrong password there. If I click on login, and of course, you see it gives me this notification, your username is invalid. Okay. And if we test now, if I make a refresh, that takes it off. If I now type a correct username and password, which is a use case, I type the correct password, super secret password, and then I click on login. You see, it takes me in, and then it tells me you logged into a secured area, and then it gives me this. So if I have a report document, I put all of these outputs into. I'm able to log in correctly with the username and correct username and password. I'm able to do a logout, you know. Then another case scenario would be typing in the correct password. You also want to test that, and then typing in a wrong password. I'm just typing anything randomly. If I press on login, you see, I get that also your password is invalid, which is also wrong for an application. You don't want to let the user know what is wrong for security reason, because if um, a hacker gets a hold of it, he knows that, hey, okay, I have the right password, username, but I have the wrong password. So they can keep testing the password over and over again. But if you say the feedback is your username and password combination is wrong, so that way you don't let them know exactly what is wrong. They can't really guess. Yes, it's not useful for the right user, but at the same time, is useful to prevent a hacker from knowing what to test repeatedly. Um, so this is, and if you have to test this a different time, a 1 week time, you have to go in again and type the username and password combination, do all of those scenarios, which is quite cumbersome. That is one issue with manual testing. As you will see in the next step, when you do automated testing and then you want to revisit it back in the week or two or the month's time, you just click a button and the script that you've written would go all the way, go to this website or go to whatever website you're testing, input your username and password automatically and just tells you the result rather than you typing it over and over again. So I would see you in the next one. Before we begin writing the script on Cypress for the automated script, we have to know what these elements are identified by the inputs and password, username, and then the button. So to do that, either you're using Chrome or um, Mozilla, whatever Explorer you're using, just right click. I think the easiest way is to click on inspect. You can go on here on the menu, and then you can also find your way. But the easiest way um, that is common is you just click on inspect, and then it opens the console. Don't be overwhelmed by what you're seeing. The first thing you should look for, you see this pointer here, just click on that and then let's point on this input, for instance. If we point on the input box, you see right here, input says the ID is username. So take note of that identification. The ID is username, the type is test, the name. So the two things you want to take note of is the ID or the name. So the ID, the name of that is username. So if you do the same thing, click on that pointer, click on the password. You see the detail for the password. You have the ID as a password. You have the type is called password. The name is password. So let's do that for the button. When you click on that also, and then you click on the button, not the text on the button, but on the button itself. You see, when you click that, let's do that one more time. I lost it. So when you point at it, so you see here, you see, we have the button, the class is radius, the type is submit. The type is submit. So take note of those details. We have username, we have the password, and for the button, we have it as type. We don't have an ID on it, but we have a class called radius, we have a type called button. So take note of those details before you start writing your script. Let's look at the first scenario, which is a valid login scenario. So we begin by defining, um, close that, defining what the test is doing, logs in with valid credentials. Okay, and then we start a function to run. And what the first step we'll do, we visit, that keeps coming up. So we visit the page where, just like we saw in the manual tests, we go to the same page. That's heroku.com/login. So this just simulates going to the browser, putting down the URL. And when we get there, what do we do next? We get the user name text. So remember, when we did the element inspection, we discovered that the ID is username. And when we get the username text box, what do? We type in the correct username, which is Tom Smith. And the next thing we do after writing the username is to get the password. Remember the inspection, we discovered that the ID is of that field is password. So when we get it, what do? We type in it. And what is the password? Recall from the browser, the correct password is super secret password. There's an exclamation mark there. And the next thing we do, we get the button. Remember, the button didn't have an ID, but it had a type. And normally, there's always one type of submit pass button on a page. It's either submit or reset. But we know that the type of pass button we are referring to, we discover from the inspection, is named as submit. So once we do this, once we get the submit button, we're able to identify it by that tag. What do we do next? We click on it. Okay. And when we click on it, how do we determine that we have successfully logged in? Remember the inspection, there was something we missed. I will just go back there. So let's inspect that page again. Um, so when you, let me do a valid login, Tom Smith, I'm just going to copy. This is just manual test, just to show what we didn't do. This is the password. I'm just going to paste it there. Now, when you submit login successfully, so this block here, where this notification, so this is one way for us to determine in the script once we see that line. Um, so if you click on that pointer again and click that area notification, you see the ID is flash. Okay, so that's where I want to draw your attention to. So if we go back to the script, we say cy.get. So we want to know, determine whether we successfully log in by fetching that, um, yeah, flash. That's what it was named as. So it should contain, what should it contain? That text. Okay, so what was typed in there is that you logged into a secure area. Okay, now that's all that we need. And let me go up here so that if someone is reading your script, they would know what you were trying to do. I've just put in the comment here. So this scenario is valid login scenario. All right. So let me look at all the line. Everything checks out correctly. We save. Now there are two types. We can do um, npx Cypress run. So this is called headless, okay, because we are not opening the browser. I just want the result to show on the terminal, okay. So it's going to take not so long, not so long. It shouldn't take that long. It just shows you the result. You see all specs pass. One pass. If you scroll up, you see what it is doing. So that is a title. If it has more than one, it's going to list all the titles. So you see the title that we gave it, logs in the valid credentials. Okay, but where the fun part is when we now run it in the browser. Cypress npx. Let me clear this off. Npx Cypress open. Remember the earlier one was run. This is open. So npx Cypress open. So for open, it's going to trigger this interface that you're seeing. We've already configured this. This is end-to-end testing um, that you would basically use for the most part. Component testing is mostly used for developers that have access to the code. Okay, but for the most part, you don't have access to the code. You just have access to the link that gets you into the code. Okay, so end-to-end testing configured already. Click here. You select the browser you want to use. I recommend Chrome. So once you click Start, okay, it's going to get to this place. It's going to list our test script is named as spec. You can name it anything you want. So whatever you name it as, it's going to show you. But once you click on it, it's going to simulate all of that step. You see now it's going to that link, visiting the link. See that it's opening on the browser. It's putting the username and password, and it's clicking the button. Now, this is traditional. The It's just a warning from Chrome securities. That password is not a secure password. So Chrome, this is just Chrome telling you, it's not a secure password. If I click OK, it's going to go into. You see, that's a successful login. To make you appreciate, I'm just going to close all of this, close this again, just to end the script. I'm going to go back to where it typed the password because that looks so fast. But you can do this. We can do this to make it look more interesting. You can add a delay here, delay, just to show you um, how the text is being written in a real time. Okay, we can do this, right? Delay for let's say 200 milliseconds. So that way, it's just going to make the username entering, very slow, just for you to have a virtual view of what is going on. So I'll clear this. Let's run it again. Give it a run again. It opens. Click on that. Choose Chrome. Say Start. Click on that script. You see, this time now it's going to open the same process. Opens the link. See, types in the password. It's slow. You're able to see it. Because of the delay that we put in there when we say, okay, it logs on successfully. So this shows, so if you want to run this test again, you don't have to do it manually, type on all those things again, just run the script. It does all automatically. Even though you have as many as 100 scripts, it's just going to run automatically and just tells you the result. So that's one beauty about automated testing. So let's look at the next case scenario. This time we're going to test what if the user puts in an empty username and password, okay, which should be a test that you should do ideally. Okay, see you in the next one. So on testing the scenario of not entering username and password, we can simply do this. We can copy the earlier tests because it's almost the same thing. I'm just going to comment this out for now. Okay, comment this out for now. We can use this then change this test to um, empty testing empty user name and password. So because it's empty username and password, we still going to follow this step. Let's rename this test. Let's rename the test, which will be shows error when both fields are empty. Okay, similar step. We are visiting the link. We are not entering anything, so we are not visiting the username field because we're not entering anything. It's blank by default. We're not putting any password. We're simply just visiting the link and then clicking the button. And the flash, the message should contain your user name is invalid. Okay. Now, if we go back to that page and test it manually, we're already logged in the last time. If I refresh right now, and then use it manually. We're not entering anything. I just click on login. You see? So we expect that the test should give us this. So that's what we're trying to simulate on the script. So if I go back to the script, which is what we've done here, visit the link, don't put in your username and password, just click the submit button. The flash should contain your username is invalid. Okay, I made a typo error there, invalid, um, which is a good thing. Now that I put it, let me run it on the terminal and see if it passes. If I click, if I do nps Cypress run, let's just run it headless right here on the terminal, see what it gives us. Okay, I expect it to throw an error because of this typo, invalid. I just want to emphasize the importance of correctness. Okay, so invalid, I expect it. So let me change that now to the real one, which is invalid. If I run it again, let's see what that error gives. Said shows, see, fails after trying, and this is what it's highlighting. Flash contain, so that was valid. So he couldn't find that phrase. That invalid alone makes it wrong. So if we run it again after correcting it, and then we run it again, I expect it to pass this time. Okay, so let's give it a few more seconds. You see, there you have it. It passes now this time. So that is just to emphasize that you have to write the phrase exactly as it is on the browser. So now that we've done it headless, now let's open it with the browser. I'll do npx Cypress open. So do that. Brings it up. Well, you should be familiar with this already. Click on end-to-end testing. Choose your browser. It brings it up. That is our script. That means you can have several scripts here for different things you're doing, but we already have one for now. Click on that. See, it goes to the browser, goes to the page, clicks on it. That was very, very fast. You That was very, very fast. Now you see, finally, clicks on it again. The username is invalid. Okay. So it's trying to, I think it's trying to make a refresh of that. So you can see the result here shows error when both fields are empty. That check mark there shows that it passed the test. So we'll take a look at the next scenario when there's a correct username and when there is a wrong password. We'll see you in the next one. Now let's look at the case of correct username and wrong password. Okay, just like we did before, let's just comment this out. Um, we can use the earliest one, which is a valid. So just going to copy that to save time. If I paste that and uncomment that, okay, let's give this a comment, which is correct username and then wrong password. We already know what the username and password is. So the same step, let's just rename this fails login with correct. So you have to name your test correctly so that can be easily identified. Your text description should describe exactly what it is doing. So the same step, we are visiting that link. This is still okay. We are entering the username. We're typing the correct password. But this time, we are going to intentionally put a wrong password there. It can be anything, but I'm just going to type wrong password. And then we click, the same thing, but it should give us this message. We're expected to give us this message. Your password is invalid. Okay, it's invalid. Of course, if I go to the browser, let me refresh this from the last, I will put in the correct username, but I'm going to type wrong password and then I hit enter. Okay, so I expect this to give us your username and password. Your password is invalid. So if we go back to the test and then we run this again, You should get used to this now. npx Cypress, spell that correctly. Open. All right. So when we run that, it opens up the browser. Click on this. Choose Chrome. Um, click open. Select the script. It's going to open the browser. Visit the link. Write the username. Type in wrong password. There you go. See, the password is invalid. If you scroll up, see the title of the text fails login, and the check mark, green check mark shows that the test passes just in 0 seconds. So if you have to test your software again, you don't have to type that over and over again. Just get a script and run it as much as you want. So I'll see you in the next one where we're going to look at the other way around, a wrong username and then the correct password. The scenario of wrong username and correct password is similar content. We're just going to use that. That's a beautiful thing about writing the script. You can always copy and reuse as a template. Saves you time from typing anyway. So let's comment all of these out. Put that in. Give this comment a name. This time is wrong username, and then correct password. Okay. Then we change this fails login when wrong username and then correct password. Okay. So the same step, we're visiting that page. This time, just type my name. Okay. Correct password. I'll put the correct password there, which is secure. Um, what is our password? Correct password again. If we scroll up, it's kind of like super secret password. Okay, it has an exclamation mark. So I'm just going to copy that from the earliest one, type it there. It's the correct password. So you know there's an exclamation mark there. Submit. Okay. And we should still have that same error. Similar thing. Okay. So now let's run the test again. Open. Click on E2 e-test. Chrome highly recommended. Click on Start. Click on our script. Goes in there, types in my name, its password, wrong username, and then correct password. Still gives us, so the app is working correctly. Okay. So if we scroll up, you see, yeah, once again, we have fails, login, wrong username and password. Let's go back to the script and see what is wrong. If I end this with Control C, clear this, let's run it in the terminal. Let's run it in the Cypress run. Let's see if it gives us any detail. It's loading. Okay. So let's look at the detail. That's one way to find out what is wrong. So it says the flash error to contain your password is invalid. Okay. I think that's where we missed it. So if we go back there, if I go and do that manually, this is the page. No, this time we're testing for wrong. So I type in Usagi here. I type in the correct password. Let me just copy this, put it here, click on submit. You see where we made a mistake because this time we're making a mistake on the username, saying the username is invalid. So that's why the test is failing. So that's one way to debug. So if we go back to the code, and what we should have typed here, since we're testing usernames, update this one to username. Okay. Before I go back to the browser, I'm going to run this again. So let's see if it passes in the terminal. It should pass because that's what the test contains. Okay. So it's running in headless mode and it should pass. You see, there we go. One spec pass. So now that it has passed, let's run it now in the browser. So let's click on open. It brings that up. Chrome highly recommended always. Click on our script. There it again. Voila. So for invalid, the username is invalid. So you see now the test passes, fails login. So that's how you know whether the test passes or not. You just look at the report and look at the interaction on the screen. Okay, so that will be all for now. I will see you in the next one. So in this scenario, we're going to test whether the user is redirected to a secure page. Now, I want you to take note of something. Before we log in, you see the URL / login. Now, if I put in the username, okay, and then I copy the password, put in there, and then log in. But now, so the first test would be to check for correct login, successful login is to find out about this text, okay? Find out about this, find out about this text, whether it's on that Flash container. But this test that we want to do now is a little bit different. We want to test because if you see, look at the browser, it has now changed to /secure. Okay, so we want to do that test again, but this time not just test whether this phrase is there, but check whether they've been directed to the correct link, like secure, or maybe like the home page, like the dashboard. It depends on how the application is. So that's what we want to test. So going back to the script, because it's similar to the first one, we're just going to copy. We're just being lazy. Copy, come here. First of all, give it a comment. So what are we testing? Redirect to secure page after successful login. If I paste that there and comment that, you see, is entirely the same, similar block, but we're just going to name the test correctly. Directs to secure. So let's put in a slash there now. Directs to /secure after successful login. So similar step, we visit the link, put in the correct username, put in the correct password, click the submit button. Okay. So after clicking the submit button, we don't want to look at that flash anymore, so I can remove this line. That's not what we want. So what we want to do now is to check the all, check the URL. Okay. So the all the link should contain, sorry, include, not this time. We use contain in the earliest one. It should contain what? /secure, just like we saw in the manual testing I just did. Okay. And then what this one says, I think I forgot to mention. If we go back now, I'm going to go back now just to do it again. Tom Smith, click on some Smith. I click on login. You see, we have this big word here also called secure area. Okay. So remember that inspection that we did. If I click on there and I click on that secure, you see the secure is closed within this tag called H2. And I think that's the only, if I click on the arrow, you see that that's what is surrounding the secure area text H2. So H2 is a tag. So if I go back to the tests and I said, get that H2 tag, that H2 tag, it should, okay, there we go, that our word, it should contain, you have to spell it correctly, secure area, okay? So now that I've done that, I'm going to run this on the terminal just to see if it runs, if it passes the test. So let's assume the software team developers decide to change that link. You can just simply come to your test here and change it to /dashboard or whatever they choose to name it as, so it passes. But let's see it happen in the browser. So I click on open, NPS Cypress open. You already know this step. Choose the browser. I highly recommend Chrome. You can use others if you want to. So it opens up. I click on the script that I want to run. So it goes to the browser, enters the username, password, logs in. It sees the secure area. Okay, this is just a normal Chrome telling you the password is not secure. So you see that test runs correctly. If you come up here, it redirects to secure after successful login. And that was a successful test. Okay. All right. I'll see you in the next one.